After teasing us all summer long, Dustin Wolf and the Calgary Flames have agreed to a long-term deal.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to be talking about the latest and perhaps the greatest contract news coming out of Calgary this summer, and that is, of course, Dustin Wolf's 7-year extension. Incredible stuff there from Craig Conroy as well as Dustin Wolf. We're going to break it all down here today, as well as deciding if this is a gamble worth taking, as well as analyzing what this means for this next generation of young Calgary Flames. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And let's dive into it because, yes, it is a 7-year, $7.5 million deal. Incredible stuff there. He will be here or be in Calgary for the next 8 years because he still has one year left on his current deal. I think that this is a great deal. $7.5 million for a goaltender who has one successful NHL season under his belt. It is fine. I think a lot of people are questioning that in terms of goaltending is one of the more shaky positions, and I've talked about it before about how unpredictable it is, but based off of his resume and his consistent success, I would say you're more than likely going to be okay with this deal. I think that with the cap increases over the next few years, this is going to make this deal look even sweeter. I believe it was JFresh who posted kind of like a cap analysis of what the contract kind of levels out to in comparison to now. And I think it ends up like towards the end of the deal. I'm pretty sure it's like a $5 million deal by today's standards. So good for Wolf. I'm glad he deserves it. He is the 10th highest paid goaltender, which I think that's a little bit lower on the list than I would have expected if I was projecting this next contract, especially had he gone into this season without a deal. I will take it. I get it. I know people are going to compare it to the Jeremy Swayman situation. I've been vocal about that and how, we want to avoid that. But of course, a lot of different things play into both goaltender situations here. But I think that this is very good. And I have no reason to look at this negatively or try to find the negative in it. After the first 2 years, there is a 10-team no trade list, which I really like. That obviously gives the player some flexibility as well as some protection. And Wolf has always talked about Calgary as kind of already feeling like home, and he's made it his home. I think that this is awesome. Conroy met with the media earlier today at the golf outing and talked about that this has been a work in progress all summer long, and it means a lot to have it done before the season. And he talks about the future and how exciting and what kind of message this sends that they have a young group locked up. And not only do they have a young group locked up, they have 2 Americans in that group. And I think after obviously Kachuk and Johnny left, it was and Noah Hannafin, now that I think of it, it was very easy for people to say, oh, Americans don't want to be in Calgary. And I think that narrative has been squashed now with, the Coronato deal and the Dustin Wolf deal. I really am excited to see Calgary turning into a destination again. I think that that was one of the important parts of Craig Conroy's mission. He's making it, a little more enticing. But now it's time to put a different type of work into it. And of course, that is the winning. That's not going to happen overnight, but I think Dustin Wolf will be here for a very long time and hopefully be part of the winning culture, whether it is in the Saddle Dome or New Scotia Place. Also, there was an article written by the Win column, and they always include like fun little tidbits, and I found this very fascinating. This contract is the second largest contract in franchise history, of course, only being behind Jonathan Huberdeau. I can't believe that. I forgot that was a discussion back in like 2021, 2022, when it came to offering potential contracts to Johnny and Kachuk. And wow, to still really not have like a deal that starts with a number 8 in 2025 that's kind of bonkers. But good for Dustin Wolf. This is again a step in the right direction. And I know people can rag on the deal all they want, but ultimately you can trust your general manager, but do you also have trust in the player? Because when I look at this deal, I see, okay, great. His prime. The Flames will be getting a lot better. This is good. Like, there's no reason to nitpick the negatives here. There's a lot of good, exciting stuff here. And coming up next, we are going to talk about, is this a gamble worth taking? And I think you already know my answer. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel app because it fits however I want to bet. I like that there's player props, and you can build a same-game parlay or even jump in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. Plus, if it's two teams you're not really invested in, throw some money on the over and root for some great offense. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day. The biggest issue with goaltending is, of course, how unpredictable and inconsistent it can be. And I think that in the past, the Flames have kind of run through goaltenders and rotated through them like dirty underwear, similar to how they've kind of worked with some head coaches. I think that both of those spots have kind of been revolving doors. And the fact that Dustin Wolf is the first young, promising goaltender that the organization has had in over 20 years is very exciting. And this is a situation where I would put all my eggs in one basket. I would trust Dustin Wolf to carry that basket as carefully as he could and get it across the finish line. So it's fair for the Flames to justify this swing. This is the time to take a big swing, and Dustin Wolf has earned every dollar. And I think, by maybe, let's say, year 3, when he has a little bit better of defense in front of him, even, we're going to say, wow, I can't believe he's only making $7.5 million. And people are quick to jump on the this comparison train to, Swayman or Shesterkin. And I get it. I do, because it's fair to be cautious. But I think with Dustin Wolf's history and his consistency of overcoming adversity, we might be able to avoid, knock on wood, a little bit of that goalie voodoo. I think that with Dustin Wolf comes the ever loving question of, is he too small? It doesn't matter. And he said it himself. Who cares? He proved himself and signed this deal. And I think that that's another great kind of fire starter motivator for the Flames, because once again, another small, young, undersized player is dominating. It's pretty good. So I really do trust Craig Conroy here. And I know that like, trusting your general manager is a little scary, but we've trusted the process and I've liked what we've seen. Sure, all of his work came in at the 11th hour, but you know what? Still before the deadline. And of course, the deadline being camp. I think this is, like, if you were going to put your, like I said, put your eggs in a basket, this is the one you choose, the Dustin Wolf basket. He just dominated all of juniors, the AHL. He did great last season once he settled, or as soon as he settled in. Those 17 games that he played the season prior, honestly, great trial period to get him acclimated. Now we move forward. And I think that's the only way you can look, because you're not going to be able to truly judge this contract off of only his last performances when we're 2 years into this thing. So let's put the blinders on, keep moving forward. It's so exciting to see a player want to be here long term, especially in such a volatile position of goaltending. Like, we saw, like, Jacob Markstrom's deal was long termish, I would say. And obviously that didn't end up working out. And that's fine, because ultimately they ended up with Cole Reshny. So we'll take it. Like, and of course Kevin Ball too. And he's become a very important part of this group. And I like what Craig Conroy is building. I like that we are proactive rather than reactive. This Rasmus Andersson trade is just kind of dangling like a carrot in front of our faces, but it'll happen when it does. He said today, Rasmus Andersson said today, that he would never handcuff the team and only go to one team. So we'll see how things go there. But ultimately, if you signed a bridge deal here, you are walking into a situation where he can leave. And not that he can't leave, but you have the security knowing that he is under contract for the next 8 seasons. And that is a long time. However, it will come and go very fast. Hopefully not too fast, but there's still plenty of work to be done for the Flames. Conroy, we still got to work on either players retiring or Conroy trading them, because we got to get some speed and young players into the lineup. That is, I think, other than the Rasmus Andersson trade, it's like the next big project on the list. And you can't really, I get it. It's a business, but also at the same time, like, just do it. Do what's best for the team. And I suppose the only person that really knows that is Conroy. But I think with the Dustin Wolf extension, you can feel even more optimistic about the Flames' future. I think with the shuffling of players over the last few years, the the Craig Conroy cabinet coming in and really setting the tone and setting expectations for what he wants as a general manager of this team. It's gone fairly well. Sure, the team's missed the playoffs 3 times in a row, but guess what? They weren't expected to make the playoffs any of those times, and last season, they missed it by the skin of their teeth. So, personally, I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Well, this is garbage. They should have waited," or $7.5 million is too much. No. I think that Dustin Wolf is the player to trust out of everyone on your roster right now. So, coming up next, we are gonna talk about banking on this next generation of young Flames players. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today and making Locked On Flames part of your day. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at justbelmosto. So this is very exciting. And when I saw the tweet notification, I honestly, I took my glasses off and rubbed my eyes. It was like a scene out of a movie. I was like, am I actually seeing this right now? Because we knew an extension was, talked about a lot this summer and how both sides wanted a long-term deal, but just the fact that it happened with a pending RFA the season before is kind of reassuring and comforting after the ongoing negotiations before the Zary deal was finalized. But it is so fun and exciting knowing that Ball, Coronato, Zary, Wolf, and Pospisil are all part of this next generation. And there's, obviously Zane Perek and the other players that they recently drafted are there too, but like this is your group that you are looking to probably build around. Pospisil getting a bridge deal is kind of a little, but whatever. I think that Conroy trusts this team, and that's what you want. I don't think that he has this blind faith optimism thing going on. I think, yeah, of course, like he's going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, we want to make the playoffs." And I want to win mega bucks, but that doesn't mean I'm going to win mega bucks. I think obviously you have to do things from an optics perspective, but you can't go out there and say, "Yeah, I think this year is going to be a tough year." No, like that's not what a good leader does, especially coming off of the way last season ended in terms of them just missing the playoffs. You want to send a good message, set the tone, keep the vibes good because it is a long season and anything can happen. One of my, I guess, biggest complaints would be writing this contract off before it's even kicked in. It doesn't seem fair to Conroy or to Dustin Wolf. I think that it's a little silly, I guess would be the word, because you want this team to be good again, right? We all want this team to be good again. But when you lock up pieces that are going to make that possible, it's kind of silly to like be negative about it. But I don't know. That's just me. I'm also someone who is constantly trying to find the bright side of things, especially with this team. But I love a 7-year deal, $7.5 million. $52.5 million, I think, is what it comes out to. Good for him. I hope his parents retire. I hope that he buys a nice house and a car and maybe a few more suits, because if I have to see that blue suit more than 3 times in a monthly rotation, I might just fly to Calgary and buy a suit myself. Does anybody else notice that in the pregame fit walk-ins? Ultimately, this really puts momentum behind the Flames rebuild, and it puts the momentum behind Calgary being a destination. Because I'm sorry, if I'm a player, I want to play in front of Dustin Wolf. Not only because he's a great goaltender, but he's a great leader. Ryan Huska talked about that today. It was unknown at the time, but after the St. Louis losses, he went into the locker room and was like, that was on me. That was no one's fault but my own. And he did the same thing in a game against San Jose, which is ironic enough is his hometown team. And the thing that this accountability is something that this team has lacked for a very long time. Or it was the wrong people taking accountability, or it would just be glossed over entirely. So for the rookie goaltender to be 23 years old and go out and do that is very impressive. The fact that he does not shy away from media availabilities, he doesn't mince words. I think that Dustin Wolf is really a huge part of this organization already, and this extension solidifies that. And he will be a staple in the Flames community, the Flames locker room, in the city in general for plenty of time to come. I can't wait until the Flames are good enough to make a true playoff run and we get to experience playoff Dustin Wolf for the first time as an NHL goaltender. I'm hoping that it's within the next few years and we don't end up in a Detroit situation where it's year 8 and we're just twiddling our thumbs wondering what our general manager is doing. But I think right now, this signing puts the Flames in an even better place. So I'm comfortable with it. I'm cool with it. Dustin Wolf, I'm proud of you, as if I know my close personal friend, Dustin Wolf. I think that fans in Calgary, or Calgary fans in general, have so much to be excited for. You have Zane Parekh, you have Matt Coronato, you have Dustin Wolf, and honestly, hopefully Connor Zary gets his footing and we find more offense from him this season. Mackenzie Weegar, Kevin Ball has exceeded my expectations, and I hope that he continues to do so. But Dustin Wolf adds himself to this next, officially adds himself to this next generation of Calgary Flames, and I think people should be very excited. And that'll do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic evening. So we got our Zary extension. We got our Wolf extension. The next thing on the list is, of course, the Rasmus Andersson trade. I almost said extension. We want the trade. So hopefully we get that in the coming days ahead of camp. I don't think it'll happen that way, but you never know, because I didn't think the Dustin Wolf extension was going to happen today. But make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.